Thank you, Kevin. It's a privilege today to announce Mike Hazen as our Senior Vice President and General Manager. I've had the opportunity to get to know Mike over the last month. I really didn't know him very well beforehand. Shook his hand, I'm sure, in the past, but it's a situation where I've been very impressed with him in very many aspects of the job. I mean, when you're talking about an individual who is intelligent, that knows baseball, has got a great work ethic, that has experience in the game, is a loyal employee, that can be very helpful in every respect of the operation. So I think it's very fortunate for me and for the organization to walk in and be in a spot where you have someone like Mike here. So I'm thrilled to have him on board. Very looking forward to, over the next time period, to have a chance to work together. So I offer my congratulations to him, and I'm thrilled that he's in the job, and know he'll do a great job for us. Congratulations.
I want to thank everybody for being here. First, I'd like to thank John, Tom, Larry, Mike Gordon, Sam Kennedy, Johnny Galula, and of course Dave for the honor of being the general manager of the Boston Red Sox. I'd like to thank my beautiful family, Nicole, and my 4 boys for putting up with the baseball operations schedule, which is 24/7 in a lot of cases. And I love you guys very much, and I can't do this without you. None of us can. I'd like to thank the baseball operations staff that I've had the privilege of working with for the last 10 years here with Boston and the 5 previous in Cleveland. Worked with a lot of amazing people, that have helped me get here. And, you know, the experiences, the leadership that I've experienced with those people, I'll never forget. And as we embark on a new journey here, hopefully we're going to create even more memories. People like Raquel Ferreira, Amiel Sade, Jason McLeod, Mike Chernoff, Ross Atkins, Mike Rickard, Ben Crockett, Eddie Romero. And I appreciate your friendship and all the things we've done together, and look forward to the things we're going to do together. It's a privilege and an honor to work for the Boston Red Sox. It always has been since I joined 10 years ago. This organization is prestigious, successful, has history, a history that I'm proud of personally, one that I grew up in. From the days when I used to wake up and argue with my dad over who was better between Rice and Evans. That debate still rages on today, probably even between Rice and Evans. Coming here to Fenway Park and watching Wade Boggs and Marty Barrett, Bruce Hurst, going to Pawtucket, my first game, and seeing Oil Can Boyd pitch. Memories that, you know, I take with me here in this job, because that's what leads me, leads us, I think, as a group every day, drives us to be successful, to want to make this organization one that we're proud of and that the fan base is proud of, and that the players are proud of as well. I don't want to continue on without mentioning some of the mentors that I've had that I've been privileged to work for. Mark Shapiro, Chris Antonetti, Neil Huntington, Theo Epstein, Jed Hoyer, and obviously last but not least, Ben Cherington, who ironically I'm probably not sitting up here if it wasn't for him. The person over the last 10 years that I've worked the closest with. But I'm excited as we look forward, we move forward in a new direction under Dave. I think even in the first month so far, I feel like there's been a good connection between Dave and I, between what I think we've done well here, and knowing that things that we need to improve upon moving forward. Dave's experience is tremendous. We've seen that already, and I look forward to working with him and our operations staff on leading the Red Sox back to the World Series.
Good, thank you. Those that have questions, please raise your hand. Let's start with Johnny in the back.
Mike,
Johnny.
how much power will you have, and what's your vision for this team in 2016?
You know, obviously the role of general manager will be a little bit different here with Dave. And, you know, power is not something that any of us talk about or look at. Dave is going to be making the decisions. in the end. I believe that with the things that we've done here underneath the hood on the major league team, in player development, in amateur scouting, international scouting, and all those other things, we'll continue to drive that forward and help put Dave in the best position possible to make the best decisions possible for the Red Sox.
What's your vision for 2016?
The vision was the same as we started out in 2015, which is to win the World Series in 2016. Now, that's a daunting challenge, given that there are 29 other talented clubs and a lot of talented players. But that goal remains the same for us year in and year out. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. And that would be my goal and expectation. I'm sure that's matched by many people in the baseball operation.
Dave, besides Mike's obvious qualifications, how pleased are you that you have continuity and stability now?
Well, I think it's great. I think to be part of an organization where there's so many good people that are involved. I've been in a spot where you get to know people over this time period, and I think it's a very fortunate situation that you can walk into a spot where you can keep continuity with good people that are involved. And I'm sure you had a tweak here, you had a tweak there when you're in my spot, but having the same people on board is very helpful. Now, when I say that, you want them to be good people and quality people, or you wouldn't keep the continuity, but I think that exists in the organization, and again, I think it's a very fortunate situation that we have.
Get them right here in front.
Dave, how extensive was your process to search for a general manager?
Well, this is the way I describe it. I made a long list of names, at about 30 names. I had phone calls from a lot of people on that list. I knew almost every person that called me very well. This job's a little bit different than some other jobs, because a lot of times when people want to be a general manager, they're going to be in the final decision-making process. We're a little bit different here. We'll be very involved in working together. I've been involved, and I guess with Mike, it's been a good part, and it could have been a bad part, but it was a good part that he's been interviewing every day since we've been here, per se. So when I looked at all that list and I knew the people, I really interviewed two people very thoroughly. I interviewed Mike, and I interviewed Quentin McCracken. And there were a lot of other people I could have interviewed, but I knew people on that list extremely well. That's one of the, I like how people say, bring some veteran presence. That's what happens when you've been around the game a little while and you've got gray hair, you've been around people, you get to know them. But I think it's a good part of it, too. And I will say, I've been very impressed with Mike since I've been here. I was very impressed with Quentin McCracken. And when I called him today, and I talked to Jeff Lunow, too, Quentin McCracken is going to be a general manager. There is no doubt in my mind. He's got a lot of great qualities. But I think for me, it just, when you came down to Mike's experience that he's had already at the major league level, but being in a position where he is, he's been part of the organization. And if you can promote from within and you have good people, a much better situation. But I really have been poring over that list and looking at the list and taking phone calls. From the day I was announced, people have been calling me and have worked on those names.
Alex, are we on what?
One for each of you. Mike, since the day that Dave came on board, there's obviously uncertainty when the organization goes through that kind of change. What have you learned about the idea of working with him, and how appealing was this opportunity?
Well, it was very appealing. Dave's been in the game for a long time. He's worked for a lot of organizations and been successful everywhere he's been. The way things have happened over the last couple of years, obviously, changes happened. And for us to have a leader like Dave come in, I think it's a tremendous opportunity for all of us to learn under him, to grow, to continue the things I think that we've done well as look at things maybe in a different way than we had in the past. And we're all excited about that.
Dave, in Detroit, you had been, you've been president and GM. How is this dynamic different than it might have been than the organization might have been?
Well, differently here or different than it was in Detroit?
Different than Detroit?
Well, it's really a lot different, because as president of baseball operations here, we also have a president of business operations, which is Sam. So when I was president in Detroit, I was president of the whole operations and the general manager and the CEO there. So I was involved in also, although a lot of the business responsibilities were delegated on a day-to-day basis, I was still involved in some of those. Where here, the business decisions, I mean, we'll work together on many things. Those are Sam's decisions. So he runs that business operation. For me here, I'm involved in the baseball operations. You have to work closely together if you're going to have a good organization, no matter what, and we do that. But so it's really a significant difference, because for me, my primary focus is on the baseball operations here, day in and day out, where I had other responsibilities when I was there.
I was kind of referring specifically to, you know, given that Mike's title is that of GM,
Mhm.
does that represent a departure from, you know, from the model or from kind of a baseball operations structure that
Yeah, this is different. I think this is more attuned to a couple of new organizations that have adopted, as the Dodgers have a president of baseball operations and a general manager. The Cubs have that. Arizona has that. And so it is different. I think that when I came on board, and John and Tom and Mike had talked to me about that, I've talked to Mike Hazen about this, is that one of the things when you come here, it's a real positive. There's so many good things that are taking place. It's such a good organization. But there's also a lot of things taking place. And I think that if you want to do things properly, you work together with a lot of individuals, but you need to properly delegate to make sure things are running in a good fashion, properly delegate and work together, because it is so big. And I think that that's why you need a couple of people in those positions to work together, and then still get involved with business discussions that take place. You can't miss a beat when those things are taking place. You can't say, okay, well, I'm not going to be making a deal today. I'm off doing those things for a couple hours, where I've got somebody that we work very closely together and can handle those things.
This is for Dave. You mentioned continuity being a valuable thing. Yet your team has could finish the last 2 years. Now, why is continuity good as opposed to sweeping change?
Well, it's a good question. I think that really comes down to the personnel that are involved. I can't really respond to everything that's taken place over the last couple of years on the field. But it's a situation where I think that any organization that you go into, there are good people that are involved. There's a lot of good things that have taken place, too. And when you look at development and signings that we have, the good young players, there's a lot of good young core players that are here, and a lot of people that have been involved in finding those players. And I think you can make a mistake if you all of a sudden just go in and analyze and look at the general outcome. That things have not worked out very well on the field. But and I've made this statement before, I've gone to a place, I've been in a few different spots where I start. I start with an expansion team, and you're building an expansion team for years, 5 years before you win. I went into a spot in 2002 in Detroit, which we did not have a good club, and we weren't close to winning at that point, and we didn't have a deep farm system at all. I think that is a lot different than what exists here, because when you walk in here and you look at the young talent that you have and the talent in the farm system, I think if we can make some adjustments and make some decisions that are good this wintertime, that we are in a position where we can be a very good club quickly.
Jen on the right.
Yeah, Mike, you mentioned just kind of a different way of approaching things under Dave. How much, I guess, of a challenge do you see it being, having worked with Ben and Theo over the past 10 years, of kind of shifting maybe some of your philosophies to kind of align with this?
It's a good question. You know, I think, as Dave and I talked about this, Ben and Dave in a lot of ways are very similar in personality, in some approaches to how, and Dave and I have only been working together for a month, so I don't know, we haven't gotten into a ton of details. But I see a lot of similarities. I think anytime, I mean, even when we went through change from Theo to Ben, it was the same organization, but they were two drastically different personalities, as everybody knows. And so we're all left to adjust. That's our job. I talked to Dave about that it's not obviously Dave's job to adjust to us and our culture. It's our job to adjust our culture to Dave. And so that's something we're used to. I'm used to, we're used to as a group, because that's the way I think we will put Dave in the best position to make decisions moving forward. And so that's the way we approach every day when we come to work.
Sean, also on the right.
Dave, realizing that this is a bit of a different structure here with titles, how will Mike's responsibilities and duties differ as GM, given that you're making final decisions than it would be as merely an assistant GM?
Well, he'll have more authority to do things. He'll be in a position where he'll carry that torch real as a general manager. I think as an assistant general manager, we talked about, and I don't want to necessarily open this avenue in here, but dealing with the media as a general manager, well, you deal with the media. As an assistant general manager, you're probably not dealing with the media very much. There are going to be certain areas in the baseball operations, and we still have to completely come to that, but that will report directly to him, and he will keep me involved and informed on that. I think that that's something that's different, but he'll walk into the room with the authority as a general manager and to talk to clubs as he's the general manager. When I talk trade with other clubs that are in this setup, I get calls from the general manager, even though there's a president of baseball operations, and I know that they're speaking for the general manager, the president of baseball operations at those points. So I think it's more of an authoritative position, more responsibilities that are attached to it.
Over here on the left, Jason.
Yeah, Mike, you've obviously known Thor for a long time and have a relationship with him and John. How important do you think that is for you to kind of get your eyes down on field level and to have that trust already?
You know, the relationships I've had with John and Tori are tremendous. I didn't mention them at the beginning, and I should have. Two people that I've worked with for a long time, one who I've worked for a long period of time, and one who I've worked side by side with for a long period of time. And, you know, I think it helps, again, with the continuity aspect from a relationship standpoint, speeding things up. Hopefully, that puts me in a position to help speed Dave up in terms of some of the things walking in that he may not know right away. Our relationship, our ability to communicate, those from the front office to the clubhouse are extremely important, and hopefully those relationships will allow for that.
Sam, on the right.
For Dave, how does Mike's familiarity with the organization, and I know you've learned about as much as you can in a month, how does it help make this as seamless an off-season for you as possible?
Well, it helps a lot. It already has, because it's apparent he's knowledgeable, he knows the game of baseball. And so being able to talk about players within our system, and to be able to talk about, get his insight on how things run, has been very helpful to me already and will continue to be that way. And so I lean on him. It's almost hard for me to explain how busy things have been over this time period. I think it's important that I travel on the road to get to know people from a different perspective and see. But when I've been in the office, it's been nonstop. So a lot of things right now have been delegated. Let's do this. Let's look at that. And we haven't brought all those things back together yet, but we will. And so the insight that he's given me now and will continue to do so is very important.
Right, Nick? No microphone.
Oh, okay. Dave, that list of 30 you mentioned, any of those guys could end up here as advisors or special assistants or anything like that?
Perhaps. I'd say there's a chance they could, yes.
Other questions for Dave and Mike? Tom in the back.
Mike, can you talk a little about sort of the last 5 weeks, since the change, then sort of the uncertainty those weeks to this point today, where you and the couple boys are all in the room talking about the continuity, sort of roller coaster, if you will?
Yeah, nobody 5 weeks ago was proud of where we were. We're not proud of where we are today. And we understand, I think, and it's hard to see one of your good friends who had poured his soul into this job, what happened. But when we sign up for this line of work, we obviously realize what the ramifications can be when the product on the field isn't what it needs to be. We've gone through a period of uncertainty, change. Dave has helped to quell that quite a bit. with the way I think that he's gone about it, not just with this particular situation, but with a lot of others that, have probably gone more under the radar. I think Dave has repeatedly recognized those in director-level positions in other places who have done a very good job for the Red Sox to put the minor league system where it is, put the young players on the field that they have, the field staff that has gone out there and, since what's happened to John, carried on and really played well over these last 5 weeks. So I think, you're starting to see the building blocks of next year's team, which has started to turn that negative into a positive, and one that we hope to continue through the end of the season and into next year.
I think we have one more we got right, Ken.
Mike, when Ben decided not to come back, did you find yourself interested in his position right away? And if so, did you get any encouragement from anybody going forward?
When Ben decided not to come back, I think initially it was just a large period of uncertainty. Nobody was really thinking about anything. I think the one thing that Brian and I and Allard, more than anything else, was, it's our job as Red Sox employees to get Dave up to speed as quickly as possible. He's walking in here in the middle of a season. There's a lot of things going on. We have injury situations. We have a major league team that's playing right now. The major league manager, obviously. And so it was our job to make sure that that ship kept sailing. So you don't think about that right away. As time went on, Ben was really one of my largest supporters in this, and I appreciate that a lot. And so, that's really how we looked at things at the time and as it moved forward.
Last two questions here, Tim, and then Tom.
David, if I could pivot for a second to where you said earlier that Anthony's not going to play the rest of the season. Without seeing him at first base down the stretch here, how confident can you be going into spring training that he can be an everyday guy at that position defensively?
Well, I'm confident. I guess you'd prefer to see him play it in a game, but I also know, I think the way you approach something like that is that we've watched him move around the bag. He's an infielder. That's the plus. He's going to have some growing pains, but I think he's also in a position where he will be able to play the position from what I've seen. But I also think it will benefit for him to go through 6-7 weeks of spring training. I think you also have to be in a spot where you're always got a secondary plan, but I think in reality that he will be able to do it. He's committed to doing it. We had a great meeting today with him as far as heading into next year. I think the most important thing with Hanley is and that's why we came to the decision. We really want to get him ready to go for 2016. We need to be in a position where his shoulder feels good at that point. He gets himself in the mindset towards that. And so I think he'll be able to do it.
Final question, Tom.
Mike, last question. Jim Rice is back with me in the studio next week. Raise his hand on the right thing.
I was the Jim Rice guy. Sorry, Dewey.
What happens if Dwight Evans wasn't with them next week?
I'm sure Dwight will remind me of this pretty soon.
All right, well, thanks, everyone. That'll conclude today's press conference. Thank you.
Good job.